Hi DPS 5th graders, we are here for our second lesson regarding our essential question of how does a poet's use of structure and language allow them to convey their voice and message. Today our learning target is I can determine how stanzas provide the overall structure of a particular poem. Of course, make sure that you are pausing and rewinding as you need so that way you can have appropriate understanding and make sure that you're getting everything down. And of course, on that note, make sure that you have something to write on and write with. All right, so we know that we read to learn, and when we are reading poetry, we're reading to learn the message that that poet is conveying. And poets use structure and language to convey this. So today we're going to be reading Ernest Lawrence Thayer's Casey at the Bat. We're going to start it together, and then you'll finish it for your assignment. And we're going to determine the meaning and reasoning of each stanza, and then utilize that information to think about how do those stanzas provide structure and meaning to the poem as a whole. All right, so we're going to be completing a bit of this graphic organizer together. This graphic organizer and the poem can be found on the next page in your Canvas module. We're just going to be looking at stanzas 1 through 4 and thinking about our learning target with that. So remember, stanzas are like paragraphs, but they're in our poem. So here is the poem Casey at the Bat. This would be stanza 1, stanza 2, stanza 3, and stanza 4. All right, so make sure that you're pausing and reading this as you need. As I'm reading that first stanza, I'm going to first think about what is the overall meaning or reason of that. Well, it sets up our setting, and it also outlines the score of the baseball game, which is 2-4. So we realize that the Mudville team is down. All right, I then move into the next stanza. Again, pause as you need so that way you can make sure to read it. And this introduces our character named in our title. It introduces Casey, and it introduces the idea that he's really good and can save the team. And I know that he's good, or at least that people think that he can save a team, because we're in deep despair, because they're down, and they say they thought if only Casey could get a whack at that. So we have this feeling of hope if Casey is able to get up to bat. All right, looking at 3, it introduces some more characters. Flynn and Jimmy Blake, but it does not talk about them in a nice way. And so they're thinking that there's going to be little chance of Casey getting to bat because they're thinking that these two will strike out. So again, it introduced those two players before Casey, and they also say that they're not very good. And then that final paragraph, they're talking about what Flynn and Blake do, and they actually do fairly well, so that Jimmy is safe at second and Flynn is a hugging third. So there's an opportunity for Casey not only to get up at bat, but also to have that double run. I know that that's important because that score is 2-4. So I want to make sure, or the Mudville 9 wants to make sure they get those 2 runs to at least tie or be able to do a tiebreaker. Right, so then how do these stanzas provide the overall structure of that poem? Now, of course, in your assignment, you'll be looking at it overall. We're going to look at just these 4. So how do these 4 stanzas set up the structure and meaning of the poem? Well, it introduces the setting and the characters. That's important for me to be able to understand the rest of the poem. And it sets this up in a very suspenseful way that Casey must play well for that team to win. And so these stanzas are working together to provide that structure in terms of setting characters and setting up that plot. That also provides that meaning because it introduces why is it important that Casey is at the bat. All right, so you're going to go ahead and complete the rest of this graphic organizer for your assignment. So we've already done 1 through 4, so you'll be doing 5 through 13, and then you'll be thinking about how do all of the stanzas as a whole contribute to the meaning of the poem. This can be found on the next page in your Canvas module, so go ahead and head there when you're ready.